Quickly, I will discuss about public diplomacy. This is about what I have already started in one class, and one lecture is already been posted where I have compared public diplomacy with nation branding. Nation branding is a concept which also tried to create reputational impression of a nation. There are certain strategies. By using those strategies, we try to build the reputational capital of a nation. That's what we have discussed in last class, and we have also discussed about the differences between these two concepts, public diplomacy and nation branding. Why public diplomacy? Because it is a diplomatic approach by the government as well as you say non-state actors and people to create an image about the nation. So when you say public diplomacy, it is not something which is very specific to government nowadays, okay? Because we also have a concept called people's diplomacy, which has gained a lot of tractions recently, and we will be dealing with some of the concept and try to find out the differences and also example of public diplomacy. In one class I have discussed maybe the differences, but how to execute the public diplomacy, how will you situate the role of media in public diplomacy is important. And also when you study the propaganda and persuasion in last class which we have studied, we have taken those concepts like propaganda and persuasion. Public diplomacy is itself a persuasive strategy to create an image about nation among global public. Now here we are talking about the global public and the way you will try to create an image about a nation, about India in our case, across population. So it is meant for both domestic public as well as international public. But when you talk about the nation branding, this is also aligned to public diplomacy, which is not very specific to you say domestic public. This is basically meant for it is specific to domestic public instead of global public. First, their pursuit is to convince the global public. But here we see, apart from strategy, the goal and condition as well as the context are different. That's what we have discussed. The context of nation branding is completely different from the context of public diplomacy. When you say public diplomacy, the context is highly politicized. Suppose you see that we have this war like situation. What could be the role of public diplomat here? So, the role of public diplomat is to basically mediate, to help facilitate mediation and arbitration, negotiations. So, diplomat has a specific role. Traditional diplomat has a role more into mediation, negotiation, establishing bilateral relationship, mediation between the countries in case of conflict, in case of peace, also coming up with peace accord, signing a treaty. Okay, so it involves both political and economic interest of the nation. So, public diplomacy is there to enhance the national interest of the nation. Now, you might also question me, what is national interest? National interest is, you can also see, it's an element which save the foreign policy. So, in a way, you say that public diplomacy is an approach to create the understanding of the foreign policy of the nation. Okay, so it is also to create and generate understanding, knowledge, information, ideas about national interest, ideas about foreign policy of one nation. Okay, so here we will bring in the foreign policy. So, foreign policy is not something which is detached from day to day activities. So, we often say that it is something which we should not know or which we don't know. It is not like that. So, public diplomacy will bring foreign policy closer to the general public. General public usually don't understand the foreign policies, right? And initially, when we talk about traditional diplomacies, those are affairs between two governments, affairs between those heads of the nations, between two states, right? Between the foreign diplomats, between ambassadors, right? Or among ambassadors. So it has nothing to deal with public much. They also focused on negotiations, focused on mediations, focused on, you say, arbitrations. But here you also see that even if they have focused upon the mediation and negotiations, you will not be um, uh, finding any relationship of, like, media involvement. So you can find a reporter in the media, or maybe a photo diplomacy, a photographer. After negotiation is being completed, okay, so reporter will cover that agreement, or maybe they cover it, they cover the event. Okay, then that photograph will be published. So that's what we usually see. And slightly we say that that is also part of media diplomacy or a photo diplomacy. Photo diplomacy is very common. So when we see the photographs surrounding, so, or circulating, surrounding these events of international affairs, surrounding the events of our external affairs, our foreign policy matters, and matters that affects our external sovereignty. Here, when we talk about sovereignty, that is external sovereignty more than internal sovereignty. But internal sovereignty is also attached to external sovereignty. So, hence, any kind of agreement, signing of a treaty, establishment of a bilateral relationship, establishment of a people-to-people contact, visit of a consular office, or meeting of premiers. You see, any kind of photograph on these very events will be called photo diplomacy. That is a part of media diplomacy and public diplomacy. Now, how public diplomacy and media diplomacy are related. So, media diplomacy is a broader term where we get to find involvement of media in disseminating the information about foreign policy, about the addressing of diplomats' event to public. So it is basically when media is being used to disseminate information by public diplomat to people. Now, who are the public diplomats? When you say public diplomats, it, apart from government, we also have NGOs, we have civil society organizations, we have Ministry of Cultural Affairs, we have Ministry of External Affairs, we have consular office, right? We have those who are managing the digital diplomats, those who are managing event portals, people, citizen, right? So we all are public diplomat. So people are also very much part of public diplomacy now. Initially, people were not involved, and that's how we talk about new public diplomacy and how new public diplomacy departs from the traditional diplomacy. So traditional diplomatic concepts were different from new public diplomatic concept. So in new public diplomacy, we focus more on involvement of media and involvement of people. We focus more on two-way dialogue and a continuous engagement with the people. So people's opinion do matter. People's opinion does matter. People's opinion matters uh, in public diplomacy. Now you see that in traditional diplomacy, whether people's opinion didn't matter or what, it also matters. If you talk about the photograph during Vietnam War, okay, there is a photograph of US crackdown on Vietnam which was published, and there is a public opinion which was created in US that was against the US crackdown and policy on Vietnam. So public opinion has a role in determining the foreign policy as well as public diplomacy. Now you see that here we have discussed about many more terms. One is foreign policy, one is national interest, one is public diplomacy, one is media diplomacy, one is nation branding, one is new public diplomacy. So you will be dealing with all those various terms. So maybe how new public diplomacy will be departing from traditional diplomacy. Differences between new public diplomacy and traditional diplomacy may be one question. Okay, so first and foremost, understanding should be like that new public diplomacy is focusing upon the people and involving a two-way communication and creating an informed global south, or creating an informed opinion farmer across global south. So it involves in two-way communication. So focus of new public diplomacy is all about continuous engagement with the public, two-way communication, dialogue, involvement of social media in diplomatic trends, as well as you see the involvement of youth and those who were developing countries who are considered as south. We also have a north-south divide: developing countries, colonized countries, perpetrated countries, and oppressed countries, you say, racialized countries, which are also being informed via this diplomatic effort and trying to bring into that pole and a core. Those peripheral nations are trying to bring into this information, um, uh, like you say, flow, rather than information asymmetry. So which is already been there, information asymmetry. They are not exposed to many information, right? They are not exposed to uh, like informations which are delineated by news agencies, because news agencies are also dominated by the reporter journalist from the west, and they do have their ideological like blend of mind makeup, and they try to report situation in that way. So here new public diplomacy will attempt to bring in the peripheral nation to the core. Attempt is political. So you see the goal and attempt to persuade is political as well as economy, but trying to bring in them to the core. Okay, and hence we say that there is a difference between traditional diplomacy to new public diplomacy. But in traditional diplomacy, you see that it was one way. It was never been directed to having a two-way engagement, continuous engagement with the public. It was never been directed to form a public opinion. Right. So initially, what we actually talk of public opinion, importance of public opinion in case of public diplomacy. Right. Even in terms of foreign policy, we see when we understand the differences between these two terms, we understand the concept first. Concept of public diplomacy is to make people educated, make people informed, make people aware about the foreign policy and national interest of a nation. So you see what is involved in the concept: making people, making public aware of foreign policies of a nation, aware of national interest of a nation, and create an image among public about the nation. Build an image, build a perception about the nation. So how will you create an image? You will create image through information. You will create an image or perception. When you say you will create image or you'll create perception, perception cannot be possible without an image, without building an image, without information, without values, without ideas which are being long standing and have been established here for long. So, on the basis of long-standing ideas which are been cherished, uh, which are being taken, and ideas based on which you will create a perception. So, perception is always based on the visibility. I have told you in last class, no, that in dissertation class. So, perception is based on visibility. It is about building that awareness. Okay, it is not about, it is about, it is after getting aware, it is after getting informed. So, without getting informed, you cannot have a perception. So, public in diplomacy effort is also directed towards building that perception among you by circulating, disseminating information. Information about what? Information about foreign policy, information about government activities nowadays. We also focus on that activities. Now you say what kind of activities? activities that is also equated to the objective and determinants of foreign policies. Information about national interest, because national interests which shape the foreign policy. We have national interest. National interest may be of realist dimension, it may be of idealist dimension. Right. So when we talk about the realist dimension, we are basically focusing on the hard line or hard power. We talk about developing the arsenal. We have been discussing about it in classes, and big stockpile, building navy, building armed forces. Okay, building a very strong defense mechanism for the country. Okay, and when we talk about the soft power, we are focusing on our traditional values, our traditions, our age-old institutions, our ideas, our our policies, okay, our culture. So these are some of the soft power, so which are of idealistic as well as constructivist you say tone, which help you to define the national interest. Now you see that in India, Kautilya, and from west we have Hans Morgenthau, even Machiavelli. They focused upon the realist dimension of power. War is there to put an end to end dispute. So war is actually a means, but they try to focus on that means to put an end to any kind of war and dispute. So this is also eye to eye, tit for tat treatment. That's what realists believe. Idealists believe in creating a world based on ideas, values, which actually saved the nation and ethos. Okay, they don't believe in war, they believe in peace. So we also have idealists. We say Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru are basically idealists. And our tradition lies in that idealism. We have non-aligned movement that defines the foreign policy. Now we see, public diplomacy will make you understand the foreign policy. But what are the determinants of foreign policy? What are the objectives of foreign policy? How our foreign policy is different from foreign policy of our neighboring countries, of West, of Southeast Asian nations. Okay, so this is important. NAM is one, non-alignment movement, which we spearheaded. India spearheaded that non-alignment movement because of this very identity and idealism. India didn't want to join any power bloc, any of the power bloc, and thought to maintain its own ideology. And that was the result of charismatic as a personality of Jawaharlal Nehru. Basically, he designed that non-alignment movement that we will not be joining any of the power bloc or be apron strings of any of the power bloc. We will have our own identity. We don't want to be a nation of non-consequences. But at the same time, we cannot even emerge to be a real hard power or a superpower just because we had a history of colonizations, and recently we have decolonized. So it takes time to build that arsenal, power, and economy, and hence for our interest also we will be going non-aligned because we need help, economic assistance from both the power bloc, not only one single power bloc, and to submit to that power bloc. So that was our ideology, to maintain the equidistance from both the power bloc. We will have an equidistance from West as well as, you see, USSR. Okay, so here you also see this equidistance from USSR and US help us to have a very strong foundation in international organization. And perhaps that has created a kind of leverage for us because world try to see us through different lens now. One is secular democracy, that is also another soft power asset. You are also say that also driven the national, that has driven the national interest. We have secular democratic norms, parliamentary system of government. Okay, so definitely superpower will not try to contain the communism here. Superpower has a policy to contain its our ideology. So the kind of Cold War, it started with that, containing its other ideologies. So here also you see that we do not have many more communist countries across the world. There are 5 communist countries. Cuba is also overthrown now by USA. So we have Korean. North Korea is a communist country. Cuba, China is there. Vietnam. Hmm. Venezuela, that communist government is being overthrown. So you see, over across the world, there is always a war. You also see this tag of war to cartel each one's ideology. And communism it is an international ideology in favor of the working class and based off historical materialism and dialectical materialism. We'll be discussing about communist ideologies. But you see that you so-called liberalist or liberal bloc has already contained these communist ideologies from the across the world. They are not trying to put their foot on China, but in you see less powerful countries, they have already stepped in and trying to they have already achieved or accomplished overthrowing the communist government. Earlier, US declared the communist government as a rock state. They're rock state and create a kind of isolationist policies along with those communist states. Okay, and the problem is that they are not liberal. Problem is that economic interest of liberal state and liberal democracy, so-called liberal democracy, will not be fulfilled if a government is communist. China also has a communist government for long, but China has accepted the capitalist model of development. Although partially capitalist model, they have encouraged foreign direct investment in that way, but state-controlled economy, but encouraged capitalism. So as it is encouraged capitalism, as there are investment opportunities, economic interests are being fulfilled. So you see that national interest, even if we talk about realism and idealism, both realism and idealism is equated to economic interest. And driven by the economic interest only during that period of time, India went for equidistance or non-alignment. So non-alignment is a very important policy. It is also relevant today. People said it's not relevant. The bloc is not relevant. But our policy is based on humanism and universal brotherhood. Our policy is not based on even that liberal Westminster model, although we say that we have a Westminster model of parliamentary democracy that is inherited from the West, that has preferred by Nehru at that point of time because of his English education, because of his inculcation. We have inherited that Westminster model, but Indian values is also not communism. We have an Indian way of life, Indian thinking of life, and that believes in universal brotherhood and humanism. If you actually go through some of the scriptures, so you get to find the importance of universal brotherhood and humanism, which are being highlighted, and that those were the ethos that bind the Indian, Indian idealism. And hence, you see that we prefer equidistance from both the power bloc, and that define the national interest. So here, when we talk of the public diplomacy is also trying to keep people abreast of the national interest of a country. Apart from those national interests, we also have national interests related to what? Projection of soft power nowadays. Right. And national interest is equated to economic interest here. We have come up with different schemes. Now, I'm not going to highlight those schemes again, but you know about certain schemes. Like we have Mudra schemes, we have Bajra schemes, we have Digital India, Make It India. So you know those schemes. Those schemes are actually, you see, that there are also criticism against these scheme induced diplomacy, And even Arundhati Roy nowadays sees quite, her comments are quite remarkable and famous across the social media. She herself said that government become gutless and spineless only, like, that's what um, providing uh, food of hatred to the poor. uh, we had a country, there is a comment, we were a country, we are a poor country with poor people, but still we had education earlier, but now we are a poor country with even poor people, but they are feeding with this hatred, and that all those communalism, and certain, so that excitement, that incitement to communal violence, etc., etc. She has made a comment, and this is circulated. So now you see, when we talk about textual tradition, different books, these are also part of soft power. So you can question whether it will somehow lessen the projection of nation. No, it will not lessen the projection of nation. It will not hamper the nation branding, because public diplomacy involves the projection of positive and negative image of the nation. You are not supposed to project only the project, that positive image, and trying to suppress what is the reality. Okay, so here also, when you see the AI overview, India has a very good record in AI overview. India will, if you see the Indian government or Indian political system, so you'll get to learn that we do have a Westminster parliamentary form of government. So we have secular democracy. So the values that we have are highlighted in AI overview about Indian political system. But about, you see the Iran political system, if you type, then you actually find the autocratic government, and there is one party government, military rule, like that way it will be highlighted. Okay, you see even the government of China, government of Cuba, so you will actually find the one party government. So one party government are being trying to being overthrown, are being pushed down by the liberal democrats. They're trying to install multi-party democracy, so that is fine. But you see, you do have a very different picture here in India nowadays. But that's a different issue altogether. So, public diplomacy is about creating a projection about your national interest and foreign policy, and educate people about the foreign policy, about the activities of the government, okay, about the deals, about the treaties, and create a favorable public opinion. So, context of any foreign policy is the public opinion. Public opinion is very important determinants of foreign policy. And public opinion can also be measured through different way. In the very first class, we have discussed about the measurement of public opinion, and public diplomacy is all about forming that public opinion. It is also a step, it is also a way to form that public opinion about a nation. It is a means to creation of public opinion. Okay, and then we say media diplomacy. When you say media diplomacy is different from media broker diplomacy. See, there are two concepts. One is media diplomacy, and another one is media broker diplomacy. Now we see, when it's a media diplomacy, it's very simple concept, involvement or of media, or involving media in disseminating information about treaties, agreements, deals, about government activities, about projection of image. So that's what is media diplomacy, right? So initially, in traditional public diplomacy, media was not highlighted. Media was there. Suppose we also have international broadcasting model. Gilboa is a person, let me tell you. Gilboa, here we, okay, media diplomacy and media broker diplomacy. Broker diplomacy. So Gilboa is a person, let me tell you, he mentioned about three kinds of public diplomacy. Three types of public diplomacy. One is international broadcasting. So here, international broadcasting is equivalent to media diplomacy. international broadcasting. These are the types, and also you can say the actors involved in public diplomacy. So actors are government only. No, we understand the actors and initiator of public diplomacy is government. But in terms of nation building, actors, initiator may be government, but sender is not the government. They can initiate a program about nation branding. But in case of public diplomacy, actors, initiators are government, and then there are also actors. One is international broadcasters. So international broadcasting is a model. These are three types of public diplomacy, or you can say three models of public diplomacy. One is international broadcasting, another one is domestic PR. Domestic PR is another model. And third one is you see non-state transactional actors. Non-state transactional actors in NGOs. You see, there are examples. When you talk about international broadcasting model or international broadcaster, you might also say three types of diplomacy according to Gilboa, or three actors of diplomacy according to Gilboa, or three models. Okay. So, international broadcasting model says about, you see, example of Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia. Okay, when broadcasting the radio, even television, which is used to um, broadcast the image of the nation, broadcast the information of the government. Now, you see that when there is uh, when there is an example of using radio for broadcasting, it also necessarily used for propaganda dissemination. So when we study propaganda, we also see that radio were used to disseminate the propaganda. Radio were used to disseminate the propaganda in favor of West. Okay, now you also see even social media is used to disseminate propaganda in favor of USA in case of this Iran, Israel, and US war. Here, how it is being used during Voice of America and Radio Free Europe. So we also have Moscow Radio. If you see some examples, their broadcastings were highly uh, parochial and specific to that government, and they try to create a us versus them polarization between two nations. They will always broadcast in favor of that countries. Now you see that is not related to media broker, that is media diplomacy, part of media diplomacy. Okay, let me tell you, media is used even to broadcast the policies of the government. Media is used to broadcast the schemes of the government, to broadcast the activities of the government. So whatever government is saying, whatever policies government are having, is being disseminated by broadcasters. So if that is propaganda oriented during a war, to also have a higher say, to have a upper hand, or to win the war, then that broadcasting is always biased, so it is also propaganda oriented. So when you say media diplomacy, it also has a certain variants, like one is secrecy variant, one is, you see, this is basic variance. We also, secrecy variance is related to leaks and all, and sometimes you see it's more about public diplomacy, consultation with media, their interactions, their contact, their communication, that continuum, or you say their day-to-day interaction, basically their relationship, the relationship with the media personnel. So more veteran a media personnel, they usually know how to keep certain secrets of the government, because government usually disseminate secret to the media first in case of media diplomacy. But in case of media brokers diplomacy, you see here media will initiate, media become the actor instead of the government. Media become the first initiator, means media will approach the government, ask about government decision on removing the deadlock, about negotiations, about any kind of agreement. So media will approach first. So in any kind of, you see, any kind of warlike situation or even in a condition of peace, we may also say that the relevance of public diplomacy or new public diplomacy, we say that new public diplomacy is relevant in terms of peace, and old public diplomacy, traditional diplomacy, is relevant in terms of war. Now, again, we might also say that new public diplomacy is relevant in terms of both war and peace, because now too we are already talking about new public diplomacy and the relevance of it during warlike situation, like you said, the Iran Israel war. So where are the role of media, how you can look at the media. So when media usually have an interaction with the government and directly they are in consultation with the government. Media knows certain things, or many times what happened, there is an event called Tet Kapol. There is Nightline. There was an event that is a media event that was organized prior to any kind of negotiation. So media's role is basically in terms of helping and legitimizing negotiation, understanding the problem here, and how to do it. First, they will create a media event prior to negotiation. Okay, or they might also like directly contact the premier to find his next step. Okay, so the report may not be disseminated, but media actually broke it first. Media has taken that. So they are not looking for media, but media has approaches first, and any kind of findings bring it to the people by media. So there we get to find media difference between the media diplomacy and media broker diplomacy. So, media diplomacy, maybe you actually see, you talk about the travel, one is also travel diplomacy, that is a part of media diplomacy, where you see those reporters, journalists, they travel along with the diplomats and they usually cover the events and cover the activities. Huh. And they will also update the public about day to day line of action. That is also a part of media travel diplomacy. They work as a traveling agent or travel diplomacy. They travel along with the politicians, or that maybe local media house, and also you see that premier has contact with the local diplomat as well as local media and correspondent of foreign or abroad, of a different continent. Suppose if there is a war between Iran and Israel or Iran and USA premier has contacted the media house of Iran first. Okay, and also one personnel from Iran is traveling with him to cover day-to-day activities. Okay, and it will be a media broker if Iran media has directly contacted Trump and also get the information about any kind of breaking the deadlock, any kind of negotiations, which where media is the initiator. Okay, that is a media broker. Okay, so like that way we could see that in international broadcasting model we have got media diplomacy as well as media broker diplomacy. It is more equivalent or it is relatable to media diplomacy because they usually publish the policies of the government, actions of the government after it is done, after negotiation is done. Then domestic PR is another model which is usually executed prior to any war or peace-like situation in order to convince the domestic audience. So basically, government used a local PR firm to create a favorable image of any kind of action in favor of him or kind of policy which he is going to execute. So prior to launch an war, he will inform the domestic or he will accumulate and talk to them, interact with the domestic PR to create a favorable image about his previous policies in order to make people impressed about what is going to happen. Okay, so that in line with favorable policies which he has been bringing up, they can also give a support in order to create public opinion. It is also creating a impression about the government prior to execution of any kind of policies which are yet to come, or maybe international policies. You say Iran, US has launched an attack on Iran. So how to convince the domestic public of USA first? They will create domestic PR first. They'll mobilize the local PR and inform them, and then they will to create that favorable public opinion. That is one. Non-state transactional model which are also used because state is not sufficient nowadays. So we also take help of NGOs to create a favorable image of the nation. So when you say NGOs, this is not something very new. During even Tiananmen Square incident, there is a pro-democracy movement in China. Non-state actors like you say Amnesty International, Human Watch, and human rights NGOs, they have created a pressure on Chinese democracy for pro-democracy movement, even with the help of you say disseminating information or giving a coverage to the event. So they are also helping. International NGOs are helping to create a pressure on the government to install democracy, to establish democracy. Okay, so we have people's democracy in China. In 1989, we have that non-state transactional model where we get to find the involvement of non-state actors, NGOs, in creating a favorable image of the nation. And now also we have different NGOs. They are trying to create favorable image of the nation. In last year, I have discussed about conformist and non-conformist NGOs. All conformist NGOs are working in line with the government agendas or that government propaganda, whatever you say. So they are being funded by government to even highlight the soft power, to work on the issues that government will delineate for them, or government will highlight, government will identify. So they will be working on the issues. They will also be responsible and accountable for the outcome. They will be presenting the outcome, and they will create an image across the world about India. So many non-state actors are also involved along with state actors to project the image of the nation. Okay, so we have Mukul Madhav Foundations. We have also, you see, various branches of NGOs, which are international branches of NGOs. They are also working even on education, on art, on cultural heritage, preservation of cultural heritage, preservation of Indian art. They are also trying to contribute to preserving the soft power and projecting the soft power, as well as public diplomacy effort of the government. Okay, so these are the three models. So here, and role of media. Media can be used as I have already told you that we also have a broadcasting Doordarshan, which is also used nowadays as a public diplomacy tools. Initially, we have problem related to content of Doordarshan. So content were not that elaborated that could actually highlight each and every aspect of our culture and heritage. Now we see certain documentaries are being made, and these are available in public diplomacy, that YouTube channels. It's all about our art, culture, heritage, about dance, about freedom fighters, about stories of freedom fighters. So you can actually go through it. So these are also, you see, produced by people, and where you could actually find interest making the documentary about art, culture, and heritage. So you can also make documentary. There are also different project and funds which are sanctioned on the basis of highlighting this soft power asset of India. Okay, where you can work on this art, histories, culture. Okay, and you can make documentaries, and you can also contribute to highlight our soft power asset. So this is not aligned to any political ideology. It is aligned to diplomacy. It is aligned to our foreign policy. So this is not just something which is affiliated to one political party or not affiliated to one political party. It is all about role of media in diplomatic effort, role of media in you see, highlighting and promoting the soft power asset of the country. Okay, then that is one thing. And you also see, any questions do you have? Kiba question ase neki? Okay. Can I reiterate it, the differences between the nation branding and public diplomacy? I have already discussed this in one class. Can you remember? How can you differentiate nation branding and public diplomacy? Nation branding, we have like a nation branding example or event, Incredible India. Okay, Digital India, Make in India. These are nation branding effort. Make in India. So this is basically uh, condition on economic interest, right? To create India as an investment destination and also invite entrepreneurs from outside and also those diaspora communities to come and invest and also create a manufacturing hub in India, and get more investment from outside. And also to promote the local crafts and local manufactured item in front of India, like in front of world. So that's what is Make in India. So it promotes the economic interest. So we talk about economic interest here. Your Digital India, it has also created a platform even for diaspora communities and global public, targeted global public of India to have an idea about India, about our technologies, about you see that our government, even through portal, through social media, they can reach our government. We can actually see the digital diplomacy nowadays, which is also a matter of study. Digital diplomacy, you see the official Twitter handle of PMO and Facebook handle, Twitter handle, YouTube channel of public diplomacy, that media, MEA, that is also Ministry of External Affairs, that is also Twitter and Facebook handle, as well as YouTube channel of Ministry of External Affairs, as well as of PMO. And what you can do, you can actually you can study the like, share, and the policies, and also engagement with the public, the kind of interactions they are having with the public. So you say that digital media has already proliferated these interactions. It has extended, it has enhanced the interactions. So consular office is there. So now you can see information about visa and passport are available. But how instantly it is available is a question. So you can actually find out the like events of two-way interactions out there. So digital media diplomacy is one. And also what is important is about de-elitification. So there is also merits and demerits of it. So when we talk of soft power, okay, uh, soft power is basically an asset for us, right? It is an asset. It is also co-option, and it is asset. Why it is an asset? Because it is through which we can attract the attention of foreign countries towards us, right? And hence it is an asset. So soft power can be found in certain appeal. One is regional appeal. Okay, there are certain appeal. We can have six appeal. One is regional appeal. Another one is economic appeal. We also have political appeal. We have cultural appeal. We have emotional appeal. And first one is I forgot. There is one more appeal. So when we talk about emotional appeal, it's more about how we are being taken, how we are being adored. Okay, how we are being you say imagined by other countries. It is about emotionalization, the tendency to emotionalize on the part of the government. It's fine. If you can listen to me, it's fine. So it is all about your government step to create a kind of emotionalize. Now you see the politics is all about emotionalization. So how they can emotionalize? They can emotionalize with the stories of freedom, like struggle, the stories of our colonial, and they can emotionalize our politics across the world. So this is about emotional appeal. So how will you register emotional appeal among global public and foreign public? Okay. So then we talk about cultural appeal. Cultural appeal is all about preserving our heritage, our archaeology, our handloom, our craft, okay, our dance, our music, yoga, Ayurvedic, homeopathy, etc. How will you preserve it and also project it? So when you talk about the cultural heritage, there is also a very important identifier. অসমৰে পৰিচিত আহিলে Okay, so I'll conclude soon. Okay, so it's all about how you have your effort to preserve the cultural heritage. So when you say regional appeal, it is all about our stake in this regional framework, our stake in SAARC, Asia Pacific regions. Okay, that is also importance of our asset. Okay, so why this appeal are being important? Let me tell you. The economic appeal is related to economic interest, creating India an investment destination, risk and competitiveness. Okay, and one is all about de-elitification of the IS. Okay, this is interesting as well as it is derogatory also to certain extent. Because initially we talk about de-elitification of even officials. We talk about creating Hindi even more. That is also part of exploring our culture and projecting our culture. Okay, you see that ICCR, this is another cultural wing which is preserving and promoting the soft power, and ICWA. ICCR established in 1950 and ICW established in 1943. They are working on academic exchange, cultural exchange between countries. So we also, you see, have some scholarships. We provide some scholarship available for foreign students. They can come here and study. They can understand India, understand Indian language, and understand Indian philosophy. So 30 chairs we usually provide even for Indians to stay abroad and also to impart Indian knowledge, Indian values, Indian ethos. So there are also chairs on peace studies, on Hindi language, on even, you see, on history, Indian history, okay, Indian culture. So there are chairs across India, 30 chairs are there where India are recruited to promote teaching of Hindi, to promote teaching of history, teaching of, you see, Indian culture. Okay, so that is a part of ICCR. And also we see that when we talk about various exhibitions, there are different exhibitions. Now money is inflowing from different directions. So we can actually talk about different kind of exhibitions. And ICCR has been organizing exhibition and focusing on Hindi event basically. And there are also, you see, publication of Hindi books which are being given more primacy. So that is also called de-elitification. So de-elitification of IS cadre, it is also there. Earlier we see that diplomats had a very poetic English. They usually romanticize India a lot, and the people who were from provincial background didn't have a much say in diplomatic affairs. So now you see that in diplomatic affairs, people from provincial background and rural background have also got to get a space, and they can bring in the real outlook, the actual picture of real India. But however, we can also, you see, here we can use language and you can say it, but however the real issues and problems of the segment of populations are brought into that, you see, the public diplomatic effort is also questionable. But yeah, there is also provincialization of IAS cadre. Provincialization of IAS cadre has made the language uh, less elitist and less poetic, and making language, English language, instrumental. So we are now focusing on English language which is more instrumental, which is understandable, instead of a language when traditional which were being used by languages which were being used by traditional diplomat, which is of very poetic and very sophist, okay, and which is a bit detached from the day-to-day, like, interactions or instrumental interactions of the people. So like that way we could see some changes in it over the years in terms of creating an appeal of the nations, and also about the elite who is running, about the approaches, okay. And in nation branding and public diplomacy, you basically focus on the separate goal, conditions, strategies, media, actor and initiator, and channel and directions, as well as budget. So these are some of the indicators which will differentiate nation branding from public diplomacy. Suppose the goal of public diplomacy is different from nation branding, strategy is different, actor initiator are different, channel is different, okay. So channel is different, as well as strategies, tactics are different, budget is also different, okay. So that is important. So I think rest of the things are covered by some study materials which I will be providing to you, okay. So I will not continue public diplomacy, hope you have understood, because I have already taken one class. So here we will be focusing on soft power. So whatever I have discussed about the assets today, so these are all soft power. National interest, idealism is soft power, right? Our yoga, Ayurveda, our values, humanism, are soft power. So you need to identify the soft power asset. You can write about the soft power asset, okay. And soft power is a concept which actually coined by Joseph Nye in 1980. Joseph Nye in 1980. Prior to that, we had public diplomacy. So it's a part of soft power. Nye, Joseph Nye. So it is all about create attraction towards the nation through, you see, or induce other countries towards nation through attraction of certain asset. And prior to it, we have public diplomacy. Public diplomacy, that term is coined by Edmund Gallion. Edmund Gallion coined the term in 1965. But public diplomacy is basically about hard power and soft power. But new public diplomacy is more about soft power, we call it. But again, you also see in now in warlike situation, what could be the public diplomacy? So you cannot say that there is no public diplomacy. There are diplomacies. Okay. So it is about hard power and soft power. It is about positive and negative. It is about involvement of people. It is about ideologies, information, collaboration, ideas, concept, everything. Okay. Nation building is more about slogan, messages. Okay. About image, creating an image of India, even through influencer, travel influencer, creating an image about India by even recording archaeology, by recording a place, recording food, recording, you see, any kind of event, they're creating an image. That is equivalent to nation branding. But when you say public diplomacy, it is about content and substance. So you find some writing of government, of ministry, press release of government ministry, post by government and ministry, and also media analyze the event of any foreign policy issues, or analyze the after effect of foreign policies. Okay, so that is it. Okay.